I, Tentis Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire. Welcome! It is time to continue talking about the legends, lands, planes, and planeswalkers of Magic the Gathering, introducing you to the world settings that they've built up over the years and a lot of the interesting cast of characters and locations that they've developed. In this one, I'm going to continue a little bit where I left off because I was talking about dominaria last time. I want to talk about one of the planeswalkers from there, Liliana Vess. She is sometimes effectively known as Lil. She is a human planeswalker that is from dominaria, as I said. She is a necromancer by trade, using black mana to, of course, raise the dead, but also manipulate both the living and the dead in other interesting manners. She is highly egotistical, but she is also very attractive and charismatic. She appears to be only 30, but she is in fact over a century old. She was in fact there before the Mending, the time that the Planeswalkers lost a great deal of power. She was there before that, a Planeswalker before that time, and so she has experienced both the pre-Mending life as a Planeswalker and the post. Now there is an interesting coincidence about her that her designers wish to deny, is that by coincidence, apparently, her name is an anagram for villainous. That's a nice little bit of information there for you. Now, as for printed form, she has had 5 cards printed with her. So 5 versions of her have come out. This includes one flip card from Magic Origins, which starts her out as a legend and flips her over to a Planeswalker. So, including that one, 5 Planeswalker cards. So let's talk about her history as a character. Now, she grew up in dominaria, as I said, and she was under a very domineering father who didn't like the fact that she was very attractive and often used her beauty and charisma. So eventually, being under his thumb, she was driven into the healing arts, but she herself didn't quite grasp onto this. She dabbled, even at this point in time, in a little bit of necromancy because she thought it would enhance her healing abilities. Then something unthinkable happened. Her brother Josu was struck down with this kind of corruption from one of her father's enemies. This strange man, who will become a figure in the life, aptly known as the Raven Man, I'll talk about a little bit about him more later, he told her that there was this one type of tree that could save him. Upon discovering those trees were all killed, he informed her that using necromancy to raise one of the trees, she could get back one of the living roots in order to create a potion. So she did. She used her necromancy to animate one of the trees, created a potion, gave it to her brother. Now, it did cure the corruption, but it poisoned him and drove him insane into a murderous monster who went on a rampage. She eventually was forced to effectively raise his victims from the dead in order to kill the monster, which was no longer her brother. This entire stressor is what ignited her planeswalker spark and drove her away, in which she planeswalked to Innistrad, of all places to begin with. There she learned under vampires and liches about necromancy and deepened her knowledge of it and use of it. She, though, always had this kind of disdain for becoming undead herself after everything that had happened when her spark ignited, so she avoided that final step of becoming one of the creatures you're controlling. While there, she did encounter Sorin Markov, the so-called ruler of Innistrad, the vampire planeswalker. He soundly defeated her and effectively said, if you're civil, you can remain in my domain. Now, after all was said and done, she decided to return to her ancestral home of the Vess estate, where she wanted to exact revenge on the man who had told her about the tree and told her about how to use necromancy on it in order to get the root, this Raven Man. She was unable to find him, and so her vengeance was not satiated, and this figure almost haunts her for much of her life. It's a little while after that she encounters Nicol Bolas, the elder dragon planeswalker, who was lamenting his own loss of power after the Mending, and she herself was also beginning to feel the effects of no longer having that power, that it's harder for her to maintain her youth, power, and beauty, which are things that she covets, being as egotistical as she is. It was Nicol Bolas which suggested that she makes pacts with 4 demons, and told her which demons to seek out. So she did, and using pack from pack, basically a chain down the line, she was able to create 4 packs with these demons in order to secure her beauty and her power. Now, she doesn't see herself as being someone's servant, so this did mess with her a little bit. But at this point in time, she has no way of going against them. It was at this time, though, that she traveled to Ravinica, where she became a tour d'affaire with Jace Beleren, who is a mind magician in himself, who I'll talk about later on, but he has always had trouble with his own memories and stuff because his powers are so great. The tour d'affaire was something that she had a deep connection with him, probably loved him in a way, but she loved herself more, and so she eventually betrayed him. bringing him to a situation where he battled against Planeswalker Tezzeret, and this was all at the behest of effectively Nicol Bolas in order to gain his favor in hopes to find a way to defeat the demons which were effectively had control of her, which she had sold her soul to. This basically soiled the relationship between her and Jace, and there were times that she thought about running off with him, but she didn't. She instead then traveled again, and this time one of the demons told her about something that he wanted her to retrieve for him. But she's not sure if it really was the demon or the Raven Man a little later on, but that's a little complexity in her story. She traveled to another plane where she managed to secure this artifact note, the Chain Veil. Unfortunately, at this point in time, she encountered Garruk Wildspeaker, another planeswalker, and did battle with him, and eventually cursed him with said Chain Veil, effectively to defeat him. She used its powers, which draw upon her energy and almost life force, so it weakens her greatly to use it, but gives her great powers. So then she began her hunt. She hunted down the first of the demons which had plagued her, and killed it swiftly and without mercy. She continued on and headed to Innistrad, where things had been going well. This is, time period-wise, this is when the first Innistrad set takes place. A little note on that one. Anyway, at Innistrad, she eventually broke open the Helvout in order to find the second demon, who had been sealed in there along with the Angel Protector of Innistrad, Avasia. So the two of them were sealed in there. She broke it open, Avasia was free, yay for Innistrad, but Griselbrand, the second demon, was free, and so she murdered Griselbrand too. So she's now 2 demons down, 2 to go. So she eventually then returned back to the area where she got the Chain Veil, kind of trying to learn a little bit more about it, but her quest was in vain, and she was always haunted by these visions of the Raven Man. She returned to Innistrad to relax, but then things went bad again, because Jace went there. Emrakul attacked, the last of the Eldrazi Titans, so the Gatewatch and Emrakul did battle there, and she sided with the Gatewatch. She raised up an army of the dead and led them against Emrakul and its corrupted Eldrazi spawn, which had become to infest the land at that point in time. If it wasn't for her, they probably would not have won. Granted, her alone was not enough to beat it, that it was a united front. And at this point in time, she joins the Guildwatch, which is what it takes for her history from now. She has yet to resolve her issues with this Raven Man, but she's now gone with Chandra Nalaar to Kaladesh in order to do her own little thing. She's basically the little naughty devil on Chandra's shoulder and has convinced her to go back to her home plane for probably not the best reasons. And that's where we kind of leave her now, that as the storyline is unfolding with the Kaladesh set. So we'll see where things happen and where more things with Lana take place. I find her a very interesting character. She sort of has that seductive darkness to her. She's, for better lack of a word, kind of got the goth look a little bit in there. But she's also not most necessarily the most evil person, just self-centered. Regardless, that's it for today. I introduced you to Liliana Vess, one of the Planeswalkers that's now part of the Gatewatch, for her own selfish reasons, of course, rather than helping out the world. But nonetheless, she is part of it and helping out the world as best she can, and her torrid history, and the fact that she's a lot older than you'd think she'd be. She's a very interesting character for the sake of the history that she's had, and a lot of things that have gone through that you'd be surprised someone would persevere through a lot of these things. If you have any questions, comments, anything you must say, anything you think I left out, just please leave it in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel, the Empire, and the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.